So this is Baruch here, and the next little shtickle that we're going to do here as we prepare to enter into the Tikkun elevator. So we're working here with the Aryeh Kaplan anthology. This is number one of these little books that are so precious that Rabbi Kaplan wrote probably 50 years ago. Let's take a look over here and let's see the introduction to this piece that we're working on now. And let's try to understand it. Is Maimonides' principles, the fundamentals of Jewish faith. So we have to know, just as these are tremendous ideas and especially as expressed by Rabbi Kaplan. So we write like this in this introduction now to the Sefer. One of the clearest statements of Jewish belief is that contained in Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. These were first enunciated in his commentary on the Mishnah and in an abbreviated form are found in virtually every prayer book. They also form the basis of the well-known synagogue hymn, which is called Yigdal. In formulating these principles, Maimonides went through the entire length and breadth of Jewish literature. You have to understand the type of mind that we're dealing with, determining what principles are always taken for granted and are unique to Judaism. In clear, concise language, he then set these down in the well-known 13 principles. These principles have been discussed for the past 800 years and are still accepted by all Jews as the one clear, unambiguous creed of Judaism. For the Jew, however, it was never enough merely to accept a creed. One can believe it, but if one does not act on the basis of his belief, then his statement faces just so many empty words. On the other hand, however, one cannot practice Judaism in any sense at all unless he understands and believes in the roots from which it stems. It's important to know something about the compiler of these most important principles. Now, this rabbi, Moses Maimonides, or Moshe ben Maimon, is considered the greatest codifier and philosopher in Jewish history. He is often affectionately referred to as the Rambam, after the initial of his name, which are Rabbeinu Moshe ben Maimon. Take the first letters and you get Rambam, Moses, son of Maimon. Now, Moses Maimonides was born in the city of Cordoba, Spain, on a Sabbath, the day before Pesach, 14 Nisan 4895, or March 30th, 1135. So let's go back. This is approximately 900 years ago. I got that right? Pretty close. It is not often that the birth of an ancient Jewish sage is known with such minute accuracy. Usually, we do not even know the year, let alone the day and hour, but so great was his renown, even in his lifetime, that many of the most minute details of Maimonides' life remain preserved. Maimonides was only 13 when his native city of Cordoba fell into the hands of the Almohads, which were a fanatical, zealous group of Arabs from Morocco who renewed the ancient motto of the early Muslim conquerors, the Koran or the sword. Under their rule, no Jew dared openly avow his faith, and Maimonides and his family were first forced to emigrate. They wandered from city to city in Spain, and finally in 1160 settled in Fez, Morocco. It was during these wanderings that Maimonides began working on the first of his major works, his commentary on the Mishnah. The Mishnah, the earliest portion of the Talmud, had been compiled almost 1,000 years before by Rabbi Yehuda the Prince, and details of its development are outlined in detail in the 8th principle. Written in extremely concise language, the Mishnah formed the basis of all later Talmudic writings, but by itself it was most difficult to understand. So therefore, Maimonides wrote the first clear commentary on this word that was so central to Jewish thought. It is most interesting to note that the commentary was written in Arabic, the spoken language of most Mediterranean Jews, rather than the more scholarly Hebrew. Maimonides was writing for his contemporaries and was aware of the need to communicate in a language with which they were familiar. It was in this commentary that Maimonides first enunciated the 13 principles of faith. In the 10th chapter of the Tractate of Sanhedrin, the Mishnah outlines the beliefs that are basic to Judaism. The 13 principles are basically an elaboration of this Mishnah. In this volume, we have attempted to present the principles as they appear in this commentary in clear, precise English, whether we refer to the commentary on Mishnah or refer to the first enunciation of these principles. We will also refer to other places in the commentary on the same Mishnah, and we speak of it as a commentary on the Mishnah, say, for example, Sanhedrin 10:1. That was the 10th chapter. That would be the first Mishnah. The Muslim persecutions finally caught up with the Maimonides family in Fez. So he's speaking to a generation that is deeply, deeply persecuted by Muslims. He says, and they left for Israel in 1165, where they lived briefly in Jerusalem and Hebron. Finding life in the Holy Land very difficult, they then moved to Egypt and settled in Fostat. Supporting himself as a jewelry merchant in partnership with his brother David, he spent every spare moment working on his commentary to the Mishnah. It was finally completed in 1168 and was published on the Arabic title Kitab al-Siraj, meaning Book of Illumination. This work itself would have been enough to establish Maimonides' reputation as a great giant of Jewish scholarship. It is included in every edition of the Talmud and is considered the clearest explanation of the Mishnah ever written. Thus, at the age of 33, Maimonides attained a reputation as one of the leading rabbinic authorities in Egypt and was soon appointed chief rabbi of Cairo and spiritual leader of all Egyptian Jews. Besides this, Maimonides also established for himself a considerable reputation as a physician, and in 1170 was appointed physician to Saladin's Grand Vizier Al-Fadl. Although occupied both as a court physician and as a healer to his own people, he still found time to embark upon another monumental project, the codification of all the laws of the Talmud. It's an enormous project. Anyone who has ever studied Talmud is familiar with the Gemara, the second and last part of the Talmud, written as a commentary on the Mishnah, and in many places it assumes the form of minutes of the debates which took place in the great Talmudic academies in Israel and Babylon. Many laws appear in the discussion in places where the main debate centers around a completely different topic. In order to determine a law, one must often track down every place it is mentioned in such debate. This is an extremely difficult task. This is what the scholars did. They knew the Talmud so well that they kept following the tracks. Even for a major Talmudic scholar, this is difficult. Remember, in size, the Talmud is approximately the same as the Encyclopedia Britannica. Maimonides spent 12 years extracting every decision and law from the Talmud and arranging them into 14 systematic volumes. The work was finally completed in the year 1180 and was called Mishnah Torah, or core code of the Torah. It was also called the Yad Chazaka, or the strong hand, because Yad is the gematria, or is the numerical value of 14. The word Yad in Hebrew is written exactly the same as the number 14, alluding to the 14 volumes of this work. For short, it is often called the Yad, or simply the Rambam. Now, this code established Maimonides as the leading Jewish authority of his generation. In communities such as Spain, it became as popular as the Bible, and virtually every family owned a copy. The author's basic name became a household word in Jewish communities throughout the world. Now we're going to stop here, and next time we'll pick up the rest of this. This is Baruch Fleischman. You're at the Tikkun Elevator. Call it.